So if I could pass you over to Sandy McEachran from Holmes Sackett and let you get started. Thank you, Sandy.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Good morning, everyone. So just a little bit of background to some of the data I'll present this morning. As part of our business, we're a farm consultancy business. We do a lot of benchmarking of farm profitability and production. But as part of that, we benchmark clients' salaries or the salaries they pay their staff. And the reason we do that is because salaries or the cost of people is one of the largest costs on farms. So we're always, it's important to us and it's important to our clients to know where salaries are up to and to know how they compare and to know, where know that they're competing against other possible, options for employees. So the data I present will come from there. Just to kick us off, I think, agriculture and particularly farming has had to fight a few myths in the past about the value of the salaries to employees. And one of the things we've done in the past, and we did a few years ago now, is we compared our salary survey results to other industries so that we could just have a look to see how competitive agricultural salaries were or farm salaries were at the time. And obviously, the big one out in rural and regional areas is mining as a big comparison. But of course, when you look at the numbers of people that are employed and what industries they're in, while mining is a high profile, there's a lot of other industries that employ a lot, the majority of other people. So we wanted to know where agriculture compared, and this graph demonstrates where particularly manager salaries and also the next level down being assistant managers and overseers who have some level of management responsibility compared to other industries. And so over on the far right, over here, I'm just trying to find myself a pointer.
Okay, second button from the top.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, so right over here is the farm manager's salaries, and what you're looking at there is the average from the survey we did. Whoop. I'm seeing some comments that people can't see, is that right? Okay, so here's the manager's salaries. This is a total package value, so this isn't just the cash component, which I'll come back and explain later. But when we look at the farm managers compared to other industries, it was the 5th ranked highest industry by comparison. So what we found was that we were the managers of the farms we were benchmarking had above average salaries, well above average salaries, and they were actually competitive on a package value to other industries. And even as far down as the overseer level, they were still competitive, and you'd call that a lower management type role, so a junior management type role, if you like. So what we established quite quickly is that salaries on farm are competitive with other industries, and that was something that wasn't widely recognised at the time, and I still say we've got work to do in that area. Just to explain what salaries look like, or what salary packages look like on farms, we just have to look at all the benefits that the employee gets, because a lot of farms employ people and they pay a certain amount of cash, but then they also pay or give the employee some non-cash benefits. And the biggest one of all and most common is rent of a house. for instance. So the farm's got a cottage on it. You're allowed to live in that cottage while you're working there. Now that has a value to the employee, in that if you weren't living on the farm and you say you're in another industry and you had to rent a house in town, that rent would cost you money, obviously, but that rent would also come from post-tax dollars. So from your salary you get, you'd have to pay tax and then pay your rent. And so even if it was $200 a week and $10,000 a year, you'd have to earn perhaps $15,000 to pay for that $10,000 worth of rent. So what we do when we're looking at salaries is we gross up all those non-cash benefits so that people can see them. And you can see there's, when you include those non-cash benefits, whether they be rent of houses, sometimes it's phone for use, sometimes it's vehicles for personal use. What we get is that the average benchmark salary package was close to $120,000, and the top end of salaries offered was close to $160,000. So it is a very competitive industry, and it is important that employers are able to explain to employees what the total package value is, and that employees understand what the total package value is. So that's one of the big things in agriculture, because not many other industries have this level of additional entitlements in their salary package, and so it can be the costs of being employed can be very misleading in other industries. When one of the other common things about agriculture that's often bandied about is that it's not an industry for young people. The average age of farmers is getting older, and that it's not that exciting for young people. And what we found with our salary survey is that the distribution of age groups of employees was very similar to other industries, and we are seeing quite a lot of young people in the industry. So the majority of our employees benchmark were between 18 and 55 years of age. And what we're seeing is that it's not that young people don't want to work on farm. Sometimes they don't because they might want to, but they actually don't end up working on farm because of the perceptions about what they'll get paid and what it's worth to them. And other times they're just struggling to find that opportunity. The other thing we found in our survey work, where we actually surveyed employees, and we asked them what they liked and disliked about working on farm, and we asked them what they would want changed. And so if you look at the dislike, which is the orange columns first, you'll see that the most common things that people disliked about working on farm when we asked them were salary was rated highly, the hours was rated highly, and the workplace was rated highly, and sometimes the environment they worked in was rated highly. And by environment I mean, they're working in the cold or they're working in the wet, and they're the things they don't like. But what we also asked them was what they wanted changed, and what we found then was, so they, top of mind, I don't like the salary, but actually of the things I want changed, it ranked far lower. And so what people were actually wanting changed, even though they said they disliked a whole range of things, was really related to management and the workplace. And so what we found is that employees in agriculture actually want better employers. They want employers who are more capable of managing people and do a better job of it. And they want employers that are willing to improve the workplace for employees. And a good anecdote there was an employee who said, I'm out feeding hay in winter in a tractor with no cabin on it. You know, if the owner of that farm or my employer would just put a cabin on the tractor to make my life more comfortable, I'd be a lot more happy. And so the message we've taken out of this to give to our employers as a result of this survey is they need to be conscious and they need to up their management skill levels. And that has been a very typical response from within our client base particularly, but I think generally a wider acceptance in the industry is that employers are realising that they don't have to pay mining salaries because it's quite a good place to work, or it can be, if they are better at employing people and do a better job of that. So, and I think that is changing rapidly in the industry. We're seeing a big improvement across the board in employers, and employers on farm are becoming a lot more professional with how they handle employees. So the key points I think about working on farm are that the farm salaries are competitive with other industries. Obviously there's a big range, and I've only shown you the average. So there are low paid positions and there are very well paid positions, but on average they are very competitive. So if you're interested in a career in agriculture, it shouldn't be the money that stops you, because we know it can be competitive. When you're thinking about the potential salary you might get, you have to think about the package. You have to think about what's going to cost you to live if you take that position as opposed to a position in another industry. There are plenty of young people in agriculture and there are plenty of employees. Now the quality of employers, I would say, has been a major limitation in the past, but it's obvious to employers now that they have to change, and I think we are well down that road with the professionalism of employers today compared to even a decade ago, that they are changing and improving rapidly. Kathy, can't see if there are any questions. Are you?
I can't see any questions there at the moment, but if anyone's got a question, if they could pop it into the chat box, or if they'd like to make a comment back to Sandy at all. I think some of that information that Sandy has given is not, it certainly doesn't fit the stereotype of agriculture. I think it's a bit of a challenge to people from outside agriculture who have a belief that it's low paid hard work. And I think the statistics that Sandy has given us has shown that that's not how it has to be at all. It's actually quite, it's very competitive. There's a couple of questions there now.
Yeah, so
Sandy?
I'll answer the first one, Kathy, from Di. Are these figures from across Australia or just New South Wales? Those figures are from across Australia. There's more in New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania and South Australia than Queensland and Western Australia. But we did have data from those states. And what we found was that there was differences between states in salaries. For instance, Tasmania had some of the lower salaries, and Western Australia, for instance, had some of the higher salaries. There was also difference between industries. So cropping had higher salaries than sheep at the time. You know, wool flocks, for instance, if that was the main enterprise on the farm. Just going back to that first point with differences in state, we also found that there's actually significant differences in cost of living between states as well. So, you know, if you want to put that into some practical terms, the cost of a beer in Western Australia is a lot higher than the cost of a beer in Tasmania. So, the value of salary is actually quite accurately reflected cost of living when we looked at that. So yes, these figures did come from across the state. The data I presented to you is a few years old now. I think it's 3 years old, but we do keep that data updated on a rolling average. And to be honest, the rate of salary growth has slowed down in the last few years. So it's not changed dramatically since that data was put together. Any other questions?
Just a comment there from Jada saying that the farm salary concept was new to her, and I think that you've made a good point there, Sandy, about the needing to work out the value of the whole package. So thank you very much.
Important when looking at farms, because it can be 30% of your total value of the salary.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sandy, and I'd like to just show you, to give a round of applause for Sandy. Now, to do that, if you come back up to the 4 buttons above your list of names, and the 3rd button from the left is you can give Sandy a round of applause there. There. No, sorry, I gave you something. Yeah, that's okay. My problem.
As good as technology is, Kathy, it's not the same.
No, that's all right. That's okay. Little change has occurred in the technology since I last looked. I'm a bit behind the times. Thank you. Those of you that have got a number next to your name, if you just click it again and that'll get rid of the number. My mistake. But anyway, Sandy, a round of applause to you from all of us, even though I can't get it up on the screen. Thank you very much. And if anybody else has any questions later on, I'm not sure if Sandy is able to stay, but certainly if you've got questions that you would like me to find out information from Sandy, I'll take those questions at the end.
Kathy, there was a request there for a copy of the data. That's fine if you want to share that out. I'm happy.
Thank you. Yep. So if anyone would like a copy of Sandy's data, in fact, might be easiest if I email it out to everyone that's here. Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much, Sandy. And we'll move straight on to our next presenter, which is Rowena from Hassad. I never know whether to say Hassad or Hassad, so I'll leave it to Rowena. And also to explain your company, Rowena.
Thank you. Now, good morning, everyone. My name's Rowena. I used to say Hassad. I now say Hassad, if that clarifies things. But thank you for the opportunity, and it's great to follow on from Holmes Sackett, because I do agree with a lot of the content that was said about employees in the industry and people wanting to work for good employers, but also that our industry is very much catching up in terms of our career opportunities and so forth. So I will take you through our business, who we are and what we do, and the different opportunities that we have for entry-level, students who are joining the industry or wanting their first step. Now, Kathy, I'm the moderator here, so I'm flipping through slides. Is that right?
That's right, Rowena. You're in charge.
Perfect. Love that. So this is where we are located. Now, Hassad has been around since 2009. And predominantly we are in 2 streams of business. One is the grain side and also livestock. Now, what you're seeing at the moment is a map of our location. So we've had fast growth in our business in the last 6 years. And so now, today, we have 14 aggregations across Australia. So what you're seeing there is the size of our property. For example, Clover Downs is a property name, and that's based at Cunnamulla. I don't have a location on there. But that's 125,000 hectare property, and that's in livestock only. When I say livestock, we're predominantly in sheep, and I'll go through that in a second. But in terms of locations, we're based in Queensland, New South Wales, Uralbilk and Laura Downs is based at Coonamble. Raby and Old Bundamar, the closest regional town, would be Dubbo. Our Jindara property, which is 8,500 hectares or thereabouts, is based near Orange. And our Englefield Plains property is based out near Wagga Wagga. If you go down south, we've got 3 properties in Victoria, and then mixed operations, so livestock and grains at Lopia Downs, which is just on the border of Victoria and South Australia. Barton Station is very close to Ararat, if you know where that is, and Calabro is very close to Mount Gambier. South Australia, we're just in grains at the moment, and tilapia has livestock on there. And on the western side of the country, Bindana, Amarinya and Yupiri. Bindana is based at Bindi Bindi, Amarinya is based at Jerramungup, and Yupiri is based at Esperance, but they are grains property. So I guess the key takeaway is that we're a mixed operation business, but also across Australia. So when you're talking to, I guess, students or anyone that's interested in working for us, I guess the main takeaway here is that they have an opportunity to work either at one of our properties or across our properties. And so what our role is at Hassad is to really understand where the applicant wants to work and match them to a property that suits their location or ideal location, but also what they're interested in, whether it's grains or the cropping side of the business. So that's a little bit about us and where we're based. As I said, we're predominantly in grains and livestock, so the numbers aren't really important here. I guess what I wanted to outline here was really the different types of produce that we grow here. So wheat, canola, broad beans or fava beans, chickpeas, lupins, barley, and I just had a question from Ningen. We're not in the Northern Territory. Just on the previous slide, I'm just going to answer it now, but we're not based in the Northern Territory, and the reason for that is because we predominantly export overseas, and so our port that we export from is based in New South and Victoria. And so when we bought our properties and established them, we had a 20-point criteria of why we chose that location. So it's things like weather, how far they are away to port, yeah, and obviously 20 other points. But ultimately, we are not based in Northern Territory. We're not in cattle. We do have some cattle around, but for our sheep, it's probably better for us to be based in the lower parts of Australia. So I'm not sure if that answers your question for the guys at Ningen, but at this stage, we have no plans to going or locating ourselves up in this space here. So back to the next slide, which is grains. So these are the different products or produce that we grow, and in a year we're aiming to grow 180,000 tonnes. And again, the numbers aren't important, it's really just to give you an understanding. So when you explain to your students all the different types of opportunities that we have, the type of work that we have available will be things like sowing season and harvest season. Machinery and tractor driving is obviously a big space that we play in. And you know, obviously any students that are interested in this type of work, then please, you know, direct them to us because we'd love to have them on board. The livestock side is a little bit different and interesting for us. These are our numbers and budgeted numbers for the year. And again, you don't need to memorize the numbers, it's more just to give you an understanding of the number of heads that we have in our business today. So again, we're predominantly in the sheep breeding side of the business. That photo here is an Awassi lamb. So we're not breeding merinos as such, we're breeding these sheep here, and the reason why we're breeding these sheep here is because our market is in the Middle East. So ultimately what we're doing is breeding Awassi lambs, and we bought genetics from overseas. And one of our programs, well, the first program cost $5 million to get this business off the ground and started with genetics. So it's one of the largest programs in the world that we know of in breeding this type of sheep. So this one's called an Awassi lamb. Just had Di ask a question about sheep. So Awassi lamb is a Middle Eastern type sheep. It's got a fat tail. I don't have a photo of the tail, but it's about the lean sheep, and then at the back it's got a tail which is usually pretty fatty and about 18 kilos. In terms of bulls, look, they vary across all our different property and cattle that we produce. So it is not our core business, and that does vary. So I'd hate to lie to you and say, look, we know we're only breeding Angus cows or anything like that. It does change throughout the year, but our sheep are definitely Awassi lambs. We do have merinos on farm, but again, that's only for the purpose of crossbreeding. And it does look similar to a Damara. Thanks, Di. So that's a little bit about our business. I guess more importantly is the roles that are available within Hassad, but also equally important is our development plan. So Holmes and Sackett talks about engaging and staff and doing things differently and catching up and with other industries. And so at Hassad we are very much committed to upskilling our employees. So on the left-hand side is a typical career progression. I know this is very similar to Consolidated Pastoral as well. But what I have circled here is our Jackaroo, Jillaroo and station hand type roles. And so typically, I'm not saying always, but typically, this is where students would start in their roles with us. And these are entry-level type roles. What they would normally do is shadow other team members in similar roles, and they'll be supervised by an overseer. But if you are in the grain side of our business, I guess your typical jobs would be sowing season, harvest season, starting to learn machinery, driving tractors, what else? Perhaps getting involved in the planning side, talking to contractors and working with them as well. On the livestock side, if you're a station hand, you'll be doing most of the animal husbandry work with our sheep. So you're mustering, you're drenching, you probably get involved in fencing as well, watering and feeding, is very much part of the role. And as you get more experience, then your grade, which is what you're seeing at the bottom, which means nothing to you right now, but the grades drive our remuneration. And in terms of Hassad and how we pay, I don't have exact figures. That is confidential, but we certainly do pay above the market, and certainly very much aligned with what Holmes and Sackett are saying in that, we do package our salaries, and they are very competitive and usually above the industry standard. So, assuming that someone stays with us, typically for after a number of years, they could be promoted into an overseer type position where they're starting to manage a team of people, and because our properties are quite big and large in scale, we often have an assistant manager on a property as well. So we may, in our business on each property, have 10 station hands, potentially 2 overseers, 1 assistant manager on farm, and then a property manager managing that space. And over time, we will help any person that comes in our business to learn the practical side of the business, so the hands-on skills. If they are interested, and we certainly encourage qualifications and development, with RuralBiz or another training provider in Cert 2s, 3s and 4s in agriculture, diplomas as well. The business will help fund that and give staff time off to go complete that. We have a heavy safety program as well, where we will upskill safety licenses, so things like motorcycle license, additional training, working at heights, chem certs, we'll put first aid. So we often invest in, qualifications as well as the practical skills within our business. Once you get to, in our business, we have a high potential program as well. So once you get to an overseer, assistant manager, property manager level, we're starting to use a bit of leadership skills. We'll also develop you in leadership behaviours and that type of course. But for now, I just wanted to explain that if you had a student that was interested in working on farm, there's different ways or different entry points that you can start with Hassad. You can start, typically at this level, but in a casual type employment, permanent type arrangement, work experience. Happy to take any student that just needs a bit of work experience. I won't be able to answer the questions till later because I'm getting distracted. So I'll just keep going and I'll come back to your questions for Ningen and Eliza. Back to, the development piece. Sorry, I lost my train of thought now. So typically you'll start at Jack's, Jill, station hand level and then work your way up. Now, I'm also going to talk to you about the entry point, and if you have students that are university qualified, so graduates, we also have a Next Generation Leaders program. And that's predominantly for graduates who have completed a degree in agriculture. And what that is a 2-year program with Hassad, where we actually rotate you to different properties and also in head office as well. So we'll rotate you for 6 months into a cropping property, then move you to a livestock property, then a mixed grain operation. So you can see different country and different practices and different patterns in terms of weather and just have a different experience. But equally important is the head office piece as well. So you can see what happens behind the scenes and strategy and financials and so forth. So that's our graduate program. I'm not sure if in this audience we have any graduates at that stage, but I do want to highlight that this development piece and you know, Hassad is definitely committed to the development piece, but also educating, you know, our younger and next generation leaders. So that's a little bit about how you would progress in our business, but also how you'll make contact with us or get started with us. So what types of people are we looking for? A lot of companies do focus on technical skills and what experience students have, and look, that's important to us, but we've also changed a little bit of our recruiting technique. We appreciate that, I guess, entry-level staff may not have experience or have had the opportunity to work on a family farm, and so we do want to encourage people from outside the industry to join us as well. So our most important mantra and the way that we recruit at Hassad is all about attitude. So we tend to recruit for attitude, and then we train for skill. And the reason why we do that, because we find that it's very difficult to teach someone attitude, but if they have the right attitude, they're teachable and coachable in terms of skill. So the attitude and I guess behaviours that we're looking for in the interview process is more about passion. You know, you can see that, you know, a student is passionate about what they the next move or the next job and agriculture and so forth, initiative, that can-do attitude and that teamwork. So when we're meeting with students, what's really important to us is more the attitude and keenness to learn, because if they have that, then for us it's easier to provide that development piece with the practical skills, show them on farm how things are done, and we've got great mentors or trainers in our business that will take the time to do that with students. So for us, attitude is probably the most important thing when we look for when we're recruiting people, but values are important as well. So safety is absolutely paramount in our business. You can have the right attitude, but the wrong values, and so we do need the values to be aligned. So safety principle in our business is absolutely key. People and communities is key, and animal health and welfare is absolutely important in how we treat our livestock. So they're the values of our business, so that's what we're looking for as well when we meet people, that they've got the same principles and values so that they're aligned in our business. Last but not least, obviously the technical skills are important. So any experience, if you know, whether it's learned from school or family farm, or they've, you know, students have had some casual work here and there, please let us know, because any technical skills, machinery or GPS, licenses are important, bike licenses are important for us, and any experience in animal husbandry also helps. But again, I'll put that at the bottom, because I guess our first and foremost thing that we're looking for is really the attitude and behaviour and just willingness to work with us. Last but not least is our contacts page. I mean, I can keep talking about Hassad and all that good stuff, but our website obviously has more detail about who we are and what we do if you want to find out more. And we also have a careers page which is updated quite often. So this is where we list our vacancies, Casual roles are not always listed because we do have quite a large number of properties, and they're always going through different periods of sowing and harvest season, but also each property is going through different activities such as landmarking, mustering, drenching, and so forth. So it is very difficult for us to always advertise casual roles, but certainly our full-time roles are always available and published online. And if you have any student that just wants, casual work during the school holidays, please contact the HR team. We are the first point of contact for all 14 properties. And so I always say that we're a matchmaking service. Even if you do contact one of our property managers, that's fine to get direct work with them, but they will often forward your inquiry and your resume back to HR. And I guess the benefit of having one point of call and talking to us first is that we can matchmake you or matchmake the student to a different property, and I guess we have transparency of what roles are going at any one time across our 14 properties that we have. So I guess website is the best place to start looking for any permanent roles. Calling ourselves or emailing on that email address, HR, that's the next point of call for any casual work or work experience or any partnerships moving forward. I think that would be my 15 minutes. I'm happy to answer the questions that I've got back in the room and any other questions that you may have. So what I'm doing is I'm just flipping back to Ningan's question. Would we have to do our Cert 2 or Cert 3 for the Jackson Gills position? Of course. The answer is no. So you can come to us with limited experience. If you have a Cert 2 or 3, that'd be perfect, and that's great. And that will definitely put you ahead of the pack, if that makes any sense. But it's not a prerequisite for our roles. So again, we look at attitude, and if you have the right attitude and you're keen to learn, then if you start with us, we will help fund and enroll you into a Cert 2 and 3, and then you can also work and study as you over the next year or two, or however long it takes you. So it's not a prerequisite. Definitely highly regarded if you have that. Happy to help you through that. Just going to answer Liza's question, which is, are you prepared to teach employees, or are you just looking for people experience? Look, both. At that entry level, which is the Jack Steele station hand, absolutely happy to teach in terms of showing people how to do things, I guess, the Hassad way. And then as you get more senior, we are certainly looking for experience as well. So for example, if you're coming onto Hassad as a property manager or an overseer, we do expect that you have some level of practical experience and you have led a team before. But we will also develop senior managers in leadership skills, or if they wanted to go to Marcus Oldham, for example, and do a degree, or to RuralBiz to do a diploma, that's fine. We'll always help complement a person's skill set. It's as simple as asking for or completing a training request form, which is a process in our business, but as simple as identifying it with your manager that you want to do a course, and then completing a form, and then ultimately we sign off and off you go. So we do provide practical experience, but also that qualification piece as well. So Liza, I'm hoping that answered your question. I'm just taking the question from Chiefly College. How would students contact you, find out about positions available? And again, website the best bet. If you are connected on Facebook, we do have a Facebook page. If you want to add Hassad Australia as a friend, you're more than welcome to. And every now and then we will put a blurb up or a status up saying, hey guys, we're recruiting now. So I guess the benefit of being a friend of Hassad is that you'll see updates, you'll see photos, you'll see updates on that space. If you're after full-time work, then I'd suggest you go to the careers page, or you simply contact us at HR saying, this is the type of work you're looking for. If you're looking for casual work, I would recommend that you put some dates as well. So you might say, hey Rowena, I'm looking for casual work over Christmas, I'm available for 6 weeks, I'm really interested in grains only, and I really want to get to WA. Right, and that will help us match you to the properties that we have in WA or wherever I guess your intentions are. So chiefly I'm hoping that answers your question. And Jack, you asked where we export to. We export to the Middle East. So at this point, for our livestock and for our sheep, we do carcass trade, and we do export to the Middle East, which our parent company is based in Doha. So that's where our produce goes at this point. We were in livestock for a little, in live trade for a little bit, but we got out of that just because we didn't have control over all the different animal health and welfare issues that were coming about. So we are just in chilled carcass at this point in time and move to the Middle East. For our grain side of the business, we forward and on-sell to the likes of CBH, and again we just distribute to market, and whoever buys from CBH will then obviously get access to our grain. But that's our business model. Dee asked about accommodation available for part-time employees. Yes, we do have accommodation on farm, so it will depend on availability. But all our properties have a number of houses and good accommodation on farm, and yes, accommodation is part of the package for permanent employees. So if we were to hire a part-time employee, we would offer them accommodation if they're needed to stay on farm, but it would be subject to what room is available or what house is available. And I think that's the end of my presentation, but hopefully I've answered the questions as well. But again, happy to answer any more, either on this chat room or via Kathy. Kathy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rowena. I think you've done a sterling job and answered a lot of questions. It's a really interesting company, and I think there's a huge number of opportunities for the young people somewhere within your fold. We've had a few technical issues going on behind us, behind the scenes here, while Rowena has been capably taking the reins, and as a result of that I'm intending to slip next to Rabobank rather than the Consolidated Pastoral, which is on your agenda. We'll come back to Consolidated Pastoral after Rabo, I hope. So I'd like to welcome on board Luke Smith from Rabobank and ask Luke to take over the reins.
Thanks very much, Kathy, and good morning, everyone. Firstly, apologies, I'm just getting over man flu, so if my voice is a bit croaky, please bear with me. Why a career in banking or finance? Many people would probably have different views on this. I'm the son of a rice farmer. I have 4 older brothers and a sister, and the farm is simply too small. So my reason to end up in finance and banking was around that if I couldn't be a farmer, then the next best thing I thought would be to work alongside farmers. I like understanding numbers, and I like talking to people. So if you find those things appealing, then certainly a career in finance and banking might be an option. Before I start too much about the actual careers, I thought I'd just mention a bit about Rabobank. It's quite a unique organisation. It's a Dutch bank. It's 117 years old. It's unique in the sense that it's a cooperative structure. So unlike a lot of the retail banks here in Australia, like your NABs or your CBAs, they're publicly listed, so you can buy shares and sell shares within the company. Rabo is a cooperative structure, and it was started in the late 1890s by farmers. It's firstly started in Germany, where local young farmers couldn't raise capital to develop their business. Older farmers had nowhere to invest their capital. So a local town mayor got the two parties together, and that's how they started cooperative banking. In about 1898, it crossed the border into Holland, and this is how Rabobank formed. So it is quite a unique structure that's started by farmers for farmers. And you can see there from the slide, it was in the top 10 banks in the world pre-global financial crisis. There was a lot of consolidation of banks and also nationalisation of banks. So governments came in with the financial crisis and bought or took over the banks. Rabobank is in top 30 banks. It has a presence of 40 countries. Now looking in Australia, all we do here is agriculture. So we do it at the farm gate level, which is the individual farm, whether it's Nyngan, Tamworth, anywhere. Middle market refers to where the actual product has been value added in some way. So that could be a winery, it could be an abattoir. And corporate levels is looking at even some of the publicly listed companies like GrainCorp and so on. When I say that we only solely focus on agriculture, we do different types of lending, but it is on behalf of our farmer clients. So if they want to buy a residential investment unit or purchase a tractor, those sorts of things we can do. It's just that we're not competing in broader markets, it's only in the agricultural market. If we move on to careers within Rabo, these are typically the head office career options, and these will be very, very similar across all banks. And I don't intend to spend a lot of time here on this slide, other than to say, as you can see from that list, and that's by no means a comprehensive list, there's lots of different types of job responsibilities and careers within the one organisation. So if you look at credit, for example, what that team does, it looks at loan submissions, it does the settlements of actual loans, move down to human resources, they do a lot of staff training, a lot of recruitment. You look at IT, that's not just the infrastructure, which is the buying and maintaining of the actual computer, but it's also the software side of the business. Food and agribusiness research, I'll come back to a bit later in the presentation. One of the things I've left off there is our Treasury department. That does a lot of the foreign currency dealing. It sets the interest rates, how the bank is actually funded, so it's quite an important area. The area I want to really focus on is looking at what we call the front line, or more in terms of the branch responsibilities. And essentially there's two teams. They have a lending focus, and that's the business development. So that's when we get approached by farmers to refinance their loans, or they might want to buy another property, or they might want to develop an existing property. We have a team of people that can liaise with the farmers. In that focus, or in that team, is the sort of rural officer level, which is the entry level of the organisation. A senior rural officer might be someone with 2 or 3 years experience, moving into a rural manager, senior rural manager, and the branch manager also has a sort of a staff management responsibility. The other part of the team within the front line or the branch structure is a support team. And again, you have the different grades there: finance officer, senior finance officer, finance manager, senior finance manager. They are typically more office bound, and look, to be honest, there's very little difference between a rural officer and a finance officer. It's really just where the two paths lead you going down over the next 3 to 5 years. It's a very flat structure there, so you can really only see there's 3 or 4 steps there within the career progression. This is the Rabobank structure. It would be very, very similar within the main trading banks. They typically would have a graduate program, but because the retail banks are much bigger and they operate in far more many markets, there would be a lot more ability to move around within the teams. If we just move on to the next slide, this just talks about the entry level position. So, so the Rural Officer or Finance Officer, as I said, for the first sort of 12 months, even 2 years, there's very little difference between the two roles. Just about all staff are degree qualified, and I've listed there some of the more common common degrees. So agricultural economics, agribusiness, economics, commerce, and so on. It's pretty much a standard requirement nowadays. Some of the main trading banks, you may find that there is a greater ability to move from an admin role into a more specialised role, but typically now for any specialised roles within the banks, it would be a degree qualification. Relevant background, because a Rabobank is only agriculture, we look for candidates to have a good understanding and interest in farming, whether it's just production or even industry. That's not to say you have to come from a family farm background, but you do need to know what is a cow and what is a steer, and just those sort of basic entry points of understanding. It's probably, if you're not interested in agriculture, I mean, you wouldn't be on today's presentation, but it wouldn't be the job for you, because this Rabobank is simply agriculture, so it is all about understanding our client base and helping them grow their business. Looking at some starting salaries, it generally falls within the range on the screen there, 55 to 60. It would include your superannuation. A senior rural officer steps up normally within the first 3 years of employment, and they would be looking at salaries of around that 80,000. With our graduates, there's no need for banking experience. Very much like Rowena at Hassad, it's all about attitude. So if you've got a degree, and if you understand and are passionate about agriculture, we can teach you the banking side. It's not brain surgery, but you just need to be interested in dealing with people from the land. If I just look at the next screen here, job requirements. This just gives you a bit of a quick understanding of what sort of the requirements are when you're at an entry level within the bank. So we firstly teach you computer systems, so you understand if a client rings in with a problem, you can assist. We teach you how to do data entry, financial statements, just general account keeping matters. Then we step it up and we look to teach loan submission writing, and even before you write the submission, we're actually focusing on assessing the farm business. So we teach you the things that we see are as important in providing a line of credit to a farm business. What are the things that you should be aware of? As part of that, you look at property valuation skills, and we do a lot of on-the-job training. A couple of things with our staff development. Each staff in the bank, whether you're in the back office or in the front office, whether you work in IT or you're in the branches, each staff has a requirement to have a development plan, and this is looked at constantly throughout the year. And with the development plan, it breaks it up into saying, what are the things you are interested in the next 6 months, next 12 months, and where do you see yourself in 5 years? And so it's really trying to engage staff in a discussion about their career. What do they want from their employer? Other things we do, as I said, there is a lot of job training. There's a lot of compliance in banks nowadays, so there's a constant need to update your training skills. We do a lot of online training, and just so we remain compliant with the regulators within the industry. Also, some things we do, Rabo is very much knowledge-based, so There are a lot of study assistance available, so a lot of staff might come along and say, look, I'm interested in doing a cotton production course, or there is a grazing for profit school I'd like to go to better understand what our farming clients are doing. So that type of stuff is normally no problems at all. I have some staff here in Dubbo that are undertaking their master's degrees. One of the young managers is doing a master's in applied finance, and the bank's paying for that. And that's a $30,000 course that the bank's paying for that staff member to go through. So that's fantastic support there. The other thing I'd probably just touch on quickly is finance is typically a very male-dominated industry, and it's something that needs to change. So for any of your students out there who are thinking about finance, please don't be put off by the industry. It has to change. Rabo is trying a few new ideas to try and boost the female participation, and we have some new mentoring roles now that are happening to try and encourage more female participation. Some of the old stereotypes, when I joined banking nearly 20 years ago, a lot of the older farmers may not have wanted a female manager. I see lots of evidence nowadays that that is breaking down. So we have a number of managers in our branch in Dubbo that are female. So certainly don't be put off by that. I think it has to change, and it is changing. It's just a bit slower than other industries perhaps. Now my final slide is just touching on the food and agribusiness research. This is a unique part of Rabobank as well. It has a global research arm. What this team does is does a lot of industry papers on whether it's northern cattle trade or sugar or cotton. It does it for the bank, it does it for external clients, and it also does it for government. And this is where, particularly if you've come out of university as a graduate, this is something that you may find appealing. It pays very well, and one of the reasons it pays very well is there's just not a lot of researchers out there. So as I said there, you might find that you have a starting salary of 80,000. Sky can be the limit for a senior analyst. Look, that runs into the many hundreds of thousands, simply because there is a huge demand for information, and if you don't have a lot of people that know lots about it, that obviously drives the market price there. The other thing with Rabo being a global bank, particularly in the research division, there's a lot of ability to move from Sydney to London, for example. Obviously, because it's a highly specialised area, they really are looking to take the best of the best in terms of the university graduates. So, it's another avenue there anyway. But Kathy, with that probably brings me to, it's all very quick, I'm sorry, but brings me to a close. Is there any questions I can help with, anyone?
Luke, there's a couple of questions in the text box. Cody wanted to know, is there a set location, I assume meaning for joining the bank?
Oh, great question. No, really. Each branch has, the way about getting a career with Rabo, so on the web page is, there's a link about Careers with Rabobank, so you can go there. Often the bank advertises on Seek, particularly for the entry-level graduate sort of positions, so please check Seek. Basically how it works is that each branch is almost an autonomous business. So if I have a vacancy here in Dubbo, I get approval through Sydney to advertise the position, but there's a need here in Dubbo. Because we're a bigger branch here in a bigger regional city, what we tend to do is have a couple of graduates, and once you've employed with the bank, if there's an opening, for example, in our Tamworth office and you wish to apply, you can apply and look to you've got to compete for the job against any other candidate, but you can move around. The bank doesn't actually have a policy of moving people around every 3 years. So when I joined the bank, I had a very young family, and I said I don't want to be packing up my house every 3 years, which was the trend at that time. So I've been in Dubbo for 17 years. So you know, it's a case of you apply for the role where there is a need, and it's up to you then to sort of drive your own career within the bank. Looking at some of the other questions here, I'll just have a look here. Sorry, Kat?
I think you've answered Jada's, and I think Di's question, you've been pretty clear that you need a degree to get a start with Rabo, is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, look, pretty much. Just on that point, Di, that doesn't. If you haven't finished the degree, don't be put off by that. So we're advertising for a couple of positions here in Dubbo at the moment, and I know one of the candidates has come through a TAFE-based system and is in the final round of qualifications in completing her degree, and you know we hope to interview her next week. So don't be put off if you haven't finished, as long as you're sort of aiming to go down that path. It's probably the important thing, Di. Number of branches in Australia, you'd think I'd know that. I think it's 48. But we always sort of talk Australia, New Zealand, so I think it's 48 branches. I think bachelor's degree we've covered off in the presentation, but it's economics, agribusiness, accounting. There's lots of different degree backgrounds we find. Probably the more important thing is just wanting to deal with country people and wanting to live in country areas. There are careers within the head office in Darling Park in Sydney, but very much in branch land. It's about being part of your local community. It's being interested in agriculture, what's happening in your local town, and if you like that, then that's probably the key point.
Okay, thank you very much, Luke, and thank you for a great presentation. I think it's a very different one to what we had before, but it's a whole different range of careers in agriculture for people who maybe are interested more in the financial side of agriculture. So again, thank you very much, Luke, and thank you for answering the questions. I just need to move back to Natalie now from Consolidated Pastoral, so we'll head back there.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can indeed, Natalie. All good.
Great. Excellent. I'm sorry, I've had a lot of computer difficulties, but I think I've got them all sorted now. My name's Natalie Mendoza, and I'm actually the HR advisor here at CPC. I've only joined the company about 4 months ago, so you'll have to sort of be patient with me. I'm doing the best that I can. Alright, so let me introduce you to CPC. I'll talk about our business, the properties and locations where we're based, the team vision and values, CPC employees, and also CPC career paths, so the training and development, the positions and career progressions, our reward rates, and most importantly, I guess, the vacancies and how to apply. I'm actually hearing a lot of background noise from somebody. I don't know where that's coming from. Perhaps Luke? Thank you. Okay, so CPC's business. CPC is Australia's largest privately held cattle provider. We've got 150 years of history with a heritage dating back to 1861 with the founding of CPC's largest station, which is Newcastle Waters. CPC is an owner and operator of 20 cattle stations across approximately 5.7 million hectares of land. We're also the leading live cattle exporter in Australia, and CPC grown cattle is exported to Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines and Malaysia. We also have growing opportunities in China and Southeast Asia and the Middle East. CPC is the only major Australian cattle producer with established operations in Indonesia and experience in China. So we're a 50% joint venture partner with JJA, which owns and operates 2 Indonesian feedlots. So I'll move on to the next slide. So this is just an overview of our properties. As I mentioned, CPC operates 20 properties, covering approximately the size of 1.5 times the size of Switzerland, and it provides substantial flexibility when managing cattle flows and reducing weather risks. A property portfolio of this scale, quality and diversity can't be readily replicated. As you can see, the properties are divided into the northern operations with 11 stations primarily focused on live exports and breeding Brahman, and the southern operations, which is primarily used for finishing prior to sale to domestic processors. There's actually quite a lot of information on this slide, to be honest. We have, as you can see, lots of different stations of various size, and I've even listed the capacity that each of the stations can handle in regards to the herd sizes. I'll move on to the next slide. So CPC's team, vision and values. CPC has a defined and compelling vision for the future and a meaningful set of core values that supports the organizational development and communication at every level of the business. The vision is that the CPC team is proud to connect the best Australian beef to the world. And with the values, obviously health and safety is paramount. We also value leadership, and leadership is shown at every level within the organization. Trust, that CPC has the utmost confidence in the goodwill and reliability of its colleagues, customers and industry partners. Community. Community is very important value to CPC. We value family, diversity and recognition, and the CPC team looks out for each other and collaborates and celebrates each other's achievements. And finally, value creation. CPC is constantly looking for innovative ways to enhance the productivity of its land, the quality of its cattle, the talent of its staff, and the experience of its customers. So this gives you a breakdown of a typical peak period of CPC's employees. Obviously, employee levels fluctuate throughout the year depending on the needs of the business. We do hire a lot of seasonal workers. So CPC works to ensure we have a highly qualified workforce to meet its future needs, and we strive to build and maintain a capable and informed and adaptive workforce, and we embrace the diversity of our staff's culture, skills and experience. The breakdown of what we can see here in the graph on the left is within the Brisbane office we are really quite tiny, and it only makes up about 8% of our workforce. I believe at the moment there's a grand total of about 15 of us here in the Brisbane office. And then managers, so station managers and general managers make up a mere 8% as well. Head stockman would be 5%. But where you really see the bulk of our employees is at the station hand level, which is at 47%, and then the supporting staff, which is 32%, which is that auxiliary staff that I've listed there. So at sort of peak periods, we would go up to about 101 employees. With the male-female breakdown, it is still a very male-dominated industry. At the moment, we're at about 34% being at females, which is, I think, about on par with the agriculture industry. We would definitely like to see an increase in females, so I definitely sort of encourage females to apply. We currently only actually have one female station manager, so I'd love to sort of see that number increase also. We've got a pretty good tenure rate, especially at the station level. So the average length of service at the station manager level is actually 8 years of service. So you're really getting the people that are really interested in the industry and they've sort of been here for a long time and they're interested in continuing their careers with CPC. That's not to say that people don't go away from CPC, but we've just found recently that you know, people have gone away to get a little bit of experience somewhere else and then they've come back to us and joined at a station manager level when previously they might have been at the head stockman level. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. This might answer a little bit better about what our largest stations are within both the north and south. This is actually the breakdown of generally our full-time employees, again within peak periods. So our largest station on the north is Newcastle Waters, and then our largest station on the south is Isis Downs. So that gives you a pretty good breakdown of how many people are at sort of each station. Some stations, to be honest, say like Allawa, for example, there's basically just a husband and wife team and one other, I think, bull runner that's actually out there. So Allawa is really quite tiny, and in other stations, again, we currently have them in caretaker mode. Like Gowan, for example, where there's only one FTE there. That's basically been due to drought, and so we didn't have a strong recruitment need in the Queensland region in particular last year, but we're still hoping it rains, I guess, and that can be ramped up again at any time. One of our biggest achievements for recruitment has been our strong retention rate for the 2014 season. So we actually reduced our year-on-year seasonal staff intake by 40% in 2015. And basically, I think that's in part because people like to stay on with us. So everyone who was hired the previous year, you know, there was a strong return rate, I guess. So that has helped us retain our staff. CPC also received a high volume of quality applications in response to our seasonal recruitment advertising. So CPC remains a preferred employer and provides a safe working environment in which to build capability at all levels while matching the workforce to the business needs. Let's see the next slide. So on the training and development side of things, we're definitely committed to supporting the career development of our people, and there's an intensive on-station induction and training program for all seasonal recruits, and it's actually held by two of our station managers, which is Tom Shepherd and Cameron Crookso. So they're station managers who are certified trainers, and then they're sometimes assisted by external training providers as well. So they follow, after this training, it's followed by a site-specific induction where on the individual stations where the new staff are based. The skills that will be developed include horsemanship, horseshoeing, cattle work, fencing, water and mechanical maintenance, and also motorbike skills. The induction also allows for new staff to learn information such as low-stress stock handling techniques and occupational health and safety within the pastoral industry. CPC also runs an apprenticeship program which includes attainment of a Certificate 2 or a Certificate 3 in beef cattle offered for entry-level stock camp team to encourage career building at CPC. So for last year, 81% of all of CPC's first year intake have completed either a Certificate 2 or Certificate 3. What we have found is, though, that we have been receiving a lot of applications by people who have already completed these before applying, and that's great too. So I guess the only other thing to say about training and development as well is that we do have individual performance and development plans that are a relatively new initiative. And I'd like to see them rolled out as well, all the way down to the station hand level.
Natalie, it's Kathy here. I'm just conscious that we're getting a lot of questions, so
Okay.
I'm just wondering if we can go fairly fast. We're running behind time, and I'm worried that we won't have time to answer all the great questions that are coming.
Okay, I can speak faster. I'll basically sort of skip this slide then and go on to the next one, because this slide just gives an overview of what all the typical positions are at CPC. The next one goes through what the career progression is specifically in the livestock stream. So you have sort of your station hand positions, which is sort of levels 1 to 4, and then it goes on to leading hand. And after that, you have your head stockman all the way through to general manager. Usually, it does take about 10 years to progress from the station hand to general manager sort of level. But we currently have one of the station managers who's only about 23 years old. So he's sort of jumped ahead in that typical progression. I guess this one is particularly of interest perhaps, which is what do we actually pay our staff. We have an EBA, or an enterprise agreement, and it is covered by about 79% of all of our employees. It has lots of different rewards and benefits as part of that. I guess the two ones I would want to draw your attention to is 7 weeks annual leave. Sounds pretty good to me. And if you come back, you get from one season to the next, you have continuity of service. Accommodation and board are also provided at only $6 a day, and that's before tax. And you can see what the rates of pay are on the right. If it's an entry level and you're coming in with no previous station hand experience, you'd be starting on that level 1. To be honest, you're not going to have really all that many expenses when you're at the station, so it's not a bad rate of pay and conditions. So my final slide is how to apply. So you can go to our website, which is just actually pastoral.com, or you can sort of click on the link if these slides are available. But on pastoral.com, there's just an Apply Now tab, and that will bring you up to here. Our applications for our 2016 intake actually open in September. So the positions we have on the website listed now are available to start immediately sort of positions. And then all of our major intake for 2016 will happen in September. And so advertisements will go up all in one big hit in September. So why don't I go through some of the questions that you've asked, or Kathy, would you like to direct me into which ones I should be answering first, perhaps? Let's see.
Which one is your biggest station?
The biggest station would definitely be Newcastle Waters. I think they have.
That's in the Northern Territory?
It is, yes, and they have about 33 like full-time positions there. And I'm just trying to look back.
And are you finding more females joining the company?
Yes, within the stock camps, definitely, yes.
Okay.
And we'd love to see that increase as well.
Right. You've spoken about a season. What do you mean by that? How long is a season and what time of year?
I'm still actually learning when sort of the seasons are and when the wet season is, but my understanding is it starts, a season will start in about March or so and then go through to July. And there's been a bit of a lull period now, and then there's a sort of second season that seems to be happening in the sort of August to November sort of period. And then there's a wet season around sort of November, December, January sort of time. Please don't quote me exactly on that, but that's why we're hiring open applications in about September, hoping to sort of be interviewing people in October, November, and so I believe the idea is that you will know in December, you know, that you're going to be employed, like by no later than December, that you're going to be employed by CPC and where you'll be sent. But I'm meeting with some station people next week to just finalise that schedule.
Okay.
So happy to come back to people.
That's all right. School students, are they able to get work with you during school holidays?
It would really depend on the station. I know that we have taken some work experience people in the past. So I guess there is the possibility there. I guess it will depend on the particular station manager on whether or not that they have the time to spend with the work experience person. So
would they inquire straight to head office about that if they're interested?
Yes, they would. Yeah. And on the website as well, it does refer you, I believe, to an email address, but it's just recruitment@pastoral.com. Right. If you can send any queries through to that email address, and we'll come back to you.
And can students apply straight after their HSC to join Consolidated Pastoral?
Yes, definitely. So often we're taking, you know, your 17-year-olds, and that's the sort of age group that we would be targeting at the stock camp level, which is your level 1 station hands. Thank you.
And a bit of a curly question for someone who's new to the company: do you have any feedlots?
I know that we definitely have those 2 in Indonesia. I don't know whether we have any here in Australia, but I know that we definitely have those 2 in Indonesia. I might have to get back to you on that one. My gut says no. No, I don't think we have them here in Australia, but I'll get back to you. Still learning, I'm afraid.
Yes. Thank you very much, Natalie. I know you've had to pick up the reins and fairly
yes.
very soon after joining the company, and I think you've done a sterling job. So
thank you.
Thank you for your input, and I'm sure you'll get some inquiries out of it.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Natalie. Now we're going to move to elders. I've just got to get because we hopped around a bit in there. And I'm going to ask Simone to take us through there. So I'll pass straight over to Simone, if I may.
Okay, now I had some problems with audio and microphones yesterday, so I'm just hoping that you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, Simone. All good.
Excellent. Okay, and I'm conscious that we're running over time, so I'll be as brief as I can be, but if anyone's got any questions, of course, I'm happy to answer those. So I guess the first slide that you can see there is just about our business. So we're an agribusiness seeking to create value for all stakeholders in our market and the international market. So we've got around 2,000 employees in more than 370 points of presence across Australia, China and Indonesia. So that's just a little bit about who we are. The next slide goes into a bit more detail about the different parts of the business, I guess. And so we have retail products, agency services, financial services, feed and processing services, and also live export services. And I'll talk a bit more about, mostly about the agency side of things, is where my presentation will be directed. The next slide there is, it's a little bit hard to see, but it's basically, you can see that it's a map of Australia, and all those little black and red dots that you can see are the places where we have a branch or an office located. So we're right across the country, as you can see there. Okay, so we have a couple of different programs for sort of entry-level people. I guess it's a little bit different from the other presentations that have already gone this morning, in that we don't generally look for people straight out of school. We look for people that have had a bit more experience already and will come to us with that for the traineeship, the stock and station agency traineeship, that is. I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. But first of all, I'll talk to the agronomy graduate program. So this one is, we have an annual intake. This is a fairly new program for us. We had 3 graduates start with us in March of this year, and the next intake is proposed to start early next year, with recruitment due to commence probably through November and December of this year. So the agronomy program is a 2-year training program. There's not a guarantee of full-time placement on completion, but it's obviously, there's opportunities to apply at the completion of the program. The first 12 months is a generalist role, which is split into 2 6-month intervals by crop segment, so broadacre and horticulture. And the second year is a full-time placement at a location that the graduate chooses. And they're generally required to do work placement with one of our suppliers and also potentially one of our key clients. For the agronomy program, who do we look for? Need to have a tertiary qualification in agriculture, so completed that. And obviously, as people have already said in other presentations this morning, we need people with a passion for agriculture and that can demonstrate confidence, motivation to succeed, communication skills, and commitment and enthusiasm. So the agronomy program is for people that have been to uni and have finished their study there. The next program that I'll talk about is the Stock and Station Agency Trainee Program, which is the area that I work in. I'm the traineeship coordinator for elders. That's my role. So this is the program that I work closely with. So elders have had trainee programs for years and years in various different forms. The current form that we have has been running for 3 years now, and we've taken on 58 trainees over 6 intakes. We have a high completion rate and also a high retention rate. So our completion rates of people that start with us and go through and complete the program is over 90%. And then over 90% of those that complete have been offered an ongoing full-time career role with us. The intake, we have 2 intakes each year. So we have one that now we've just closed off recruitment for one for our intake that will start at the end of September, and then we have another intake where that's open over December and January, and they start normally around March or April. So we have 2 intakes each year, and we take on about 8 to 10 trainees at each of those. The recruitment process involves an initial phone interview, and from there we shortlist, and we then do a face-to-face interview. something we can do. Candidates that show high potential but are lacking experience, or the experience that we look for, we can refer those to some of our clients, and the sort of experience that we look for is the sort of experience that you've seen other presentations talk about just today. So Jackaroo, Chilaroo, station hand, that type of experience. I will answer, like I can see there's a lot of questions coming up, so I'll get to them shortly. I've only got a couple more slides. So the traineeship program, it's designed to deliver practical agency training and also provide an understanding of all aspects of Elders agency business. But it's a sales-based program. It's an 18-month fixed-term employment contract when you first come on. With the program, you do complete a Certificate 4 in agriculture. So, and the reason it's at that level, well, there's a number of reasons at that level, but we found that a lot of our applicants, as we've said previously, a lot of our applicants have already completed some studies either at school or since leaving school. So we wanted to do it at that level to continue on what they've already learned. The study side of it is a bit of a mixture of, there's some online learning modules. There are some phone-based sessions which run a little bit like this, I guess, in that the trainees dial into a phone session and we discuss whatever the topic happens to be, and then they normally have some case studies or short questions that they go away and work on and send back in to us. And we have 2 workshops which they go for a week at a time. They're more practical based, and as you can see there, we cover livestock, wool, animal health, driver training, livestock handling, health and safety, sales training, personal development, and so on. So those workshops are, as I said, fairly practical based, and then the rest of the learning and the assessment for the Certificate 4 is really just what you're doing day to day on the job. And at the completion of the program, there is the opportunity to apply for a full-time role with us. Again, who do we look for? So again, what has already been said by the other presenters, passion, self-motivation, and a great work ethic. We're also looking for people that want to stay with us. So it's not a traineeship program that's designed to put people through the course and then send them on their way. We do the traineeship because we're trying to get people into our business and to stay with us. The focus is on livestock, wool, and livestock production advice in those type of areas. So I think this may answer a couple of the questions that have been come up. So candidates best suited have completed school and have spent time working with the industry. So when we say completed school, that doesn't mean that you need to have done Year 12 or Year 11, or there's no restrictions there. It's just that you need to still not be at school, if that makes sense. And where we say have spent time working within the industry, so again have had a bit of experience working outside of maybe their home property. Don't necessarily need to have had come from a farm or have that background at all. Most of our applicants do, but again, it's not an essential requirement. And candidates must be prepared to relocate through our national network. So the trainees actually move around to different locations while they're on the program. So they spend 3 to 6 months in a location and then move to another one. And that can be anywhere throughout our network. So if you remember the map, there's a lot of different places that people can go. And that's an essential part of the program, which is one of the reasons that we like people to have had a bit of experience and usually have already left home, or not necessarily left home, but have at least been away from home and are comfortable to do that. So that was fairly quick. So I'll try to go back and answer some of these questions. What have we got? A graduate from school or uni. So that's for the agronomy program, our uni graduate. Do you have to go to university to be an agronomist? Yes, and for our program, yes, you need to have completed your studies. We have a school-based traineeship. Excellent, that's good. Yep, so the school-based traineeships are done at a local level, so they don't currently go through our program, but it would be something that they would certainly be probably considering joining once they've completed the school. The traineeships are available through all of our locations. So when I say that, though, that means that, as I said, we move the trainees around to different locations. So it can sort of be anywhere. The locations are worked out on a number of things. It's a combination of what the person's skill set already is, as well as making sure that they're going to be placed in a location where they get the best opportunity to learn and learn from our mentors. So you need your HSC know the workshops. The workshops are held at Albury. So we actually partner with a TAFE that help us be able to give the qualification, the certificate for. So we have our workshop near where they are located at Wodonga. So it's a combination of Wodonga and Albury. So while we work with the TAFE to help us provide the certificate for the qualification, all of the training and the assessment is done in-house by us, by elders people that have been and still are working within the industry and working with us, and it's the trainings we've all done with qualified trainers as well. So that's how that training side of it works. I think that's all the questions, unless there's any others.
Thank you very much, Simone. I know that you've done a sterling job under very difficult conditions. I know your sound has been, been a real worry for you, but it's come over beautifully. Yeah. We were able to hear you well. So thank you very much. And Alders is a huge company and so long established in agriculture and been responsible for training an awful lot of people in the industry. So again, will it be okay for you if we make your presentation available on their website as well for people to pick up?
Yes.
Good, okay.
Absolutely, and happy to answer any other questions if people want to talk to me after that too, so that's fine.
Thank you very much, Simone. Thank you. Our last industry presenter is from Costa Group, and I'm sure that many of you have heard of Costa Group, but I'll leave it up to Fiona to explain what they do, but I think the pictures across the top give you a fair hint. So thank you very much, Fiona. I'll pass over to you.
Thank you, Kathy. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. My name's Fiona from Costa Group and I'm HR Manager. Like Kathy said, across the top you'll see some pictures. Essentially, Costa started with very humble beginnings. So we started in 1888 as a little fruit shop, and basically we've grown to be the largest producer, marketer and export of fruit and vegetables. So our main categories are across the top there. We've got a mix of berries, tomatoes, citrus, avocados, bananas and grapes, mushrooms, and that in picture there is our Costa Farms and logistics function. So we've grown up to 6,000 employees. That's at our peak harvest season time. So our harvest season varies quite differently right across the country, and as we need pickers and packers, those employee numbers will fluctuate at those times. So here we look at some of those categories again, and just to talk a little bit of our Costa Farms and logistics functions. So we sell wholesale and also provide logistics and supply chain options across the retail sectors, as well as providing wholesale fruit and vegetables through Costa farms. As you can see, we're spread out across Australia. If you go to our website, you can scroll even further to understand some of the facilities and where they grow. Some of our functions, you'll see the tomatoes there in New South Wales. If you click on the different categories, you can get an understanding of those sites. The tomatoes facility is a 20-hectare glasshouse, and some of these locations are quite remote, and some of those are in city areas. We're also expanding into overseas markets, so you'll see there we've got the Morocco blueberry site, and we're also starting a farm up in China. So very exciting growth opportunities, and that expands to careers as well. Some of our customers, so where our fruit and vegetables go, Woolworths, Coles, Aldi, IGA, Costco, and some of your independent fruit and vegetable markets as well. So some of these pictures will just give a little bit of an idea of some of the opportunities across our sites and what that entails. Soil preparation is a big one, so obviously as the farming operations grow, so does the technical side. A lot of our fruit varies on what they need in regards to nutrition and what needs to come out of the soil for that. So quite technical and quite interesting line of work to work in. Harvesting crops, so that's different across all of our categories, and that happens at different times of the year dependent on what sort of fruit and vegetable it is. Packing, so we also have packing facilities on many of our sites. Quality control, so obviously with those customers they've got very keen eye on what sort of fruit comes through their stores and what that looks like. So obviously that requires a high level of skill as well. We're very product proud at Costa's. Our key values are determination, passion, sincerity, accountability and respect. And I think what comes through in a lot of our employees and what we're seeking from new recruits is that passion for product. So here we've got some of our entry-level positions. What's quite interesting about Costa is there's such a diverse range of opportunities. So you've got your horticultural roles, and essentially what we'd be looking for is people that have just graduated out of uni with perhaps agricultural qualifications. Then we've got some of our more corporate roles, IT administrators, administration, sales and finance. So graduate accountants, something we'd be looking for there is someone who is out of high school, is very keen and passionate, and started on their accounting qualifications. Operations, so with our logistics functions and Costa markets, we've got picking, packing and forklift operating positions as well. So once again, there's quite a bit of scope for career opportunities. Some of those we've touched on: horticulture, mechanics, so you're looking at workshop, equipment maintenance out on the farm, IT and finance, water and irrigation is a big, is something that obviously we're looking for greater skill in and knowing what sort of nutrition needs to get to our product. Research and development, pest and disease, soil preparation, environmental, refrigeration and logistics, and quality. So I think sometimes with agriculture and horticulture, it can, sometimes people only think of it in terms of farm jobs. I think it's great that we've got this scope, and often we'll have opportunities run every Friday. There's a lot of internal promotions that we offer. The advantages, like I said, it's that diverse scope and employment opportunities right across the country. It's challenging, varied and exciting work. So what people's concept might have been of the farm and horticultural is now becoming more technological in its focus. Competitive salaries and incentives, so that varies quite a bit across the state. So what we take into consideration there is obviously where the role's located, the size of the role, the experience, sometimes the number of people the person manages, and also we pay sometimes on the more entry-level roles the horticultural award as well as enterprise agreements at the different sites. In regards to development, Costa really believes that it's only as successful as its people. So we really look to invest in our people, and that is very much on investing in learning and development. We've got intensive induction. We've got a very strong health and safety focus. We provide very specific development opportunities for each individual. Leadership skills is a big area that we focus on, and we run yearly courses on that. We've also got Costa awards and scholarships that we run throughout the country. So it's about investing in our people and making sure that they feel empowered and engaged. So just wondering if from that anyone's got any questions.
Thank you, Fiona. It's Kathy here. My understanding is Costa is one of the biggest, if not the biggest. I'm not sure if you said that at the beginning. Horticultural producer. Does it sit right up the top in Australia, or is it?
Yeah. So we're quite lucky to have grown quite quickly, and we've got quite a presence across Australia. And like I said, moving into overseas markets, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I noticed you had Morocco for blueberries. Was that on your map earlier? I saw go past.
Yeah, that's right. So probably wouldn't have been the first thing that came to my mind when I thought of the best place to grow blueberries, but essentially we do quite a bit of research on where the best places to grow, and Morocco's proving to be quite successful.
Right. And I think the other thing I picked up was that people can come to you straight from school at entry level. Is that correct?
That's right. So essentially, there's some of those entry level positions that I covered, and we really promote growth in the company. As an example, I started as HR coordinator, and I've moved up to recruitment manager and HR manager in my time here.
That's great. And I also heard that you have every Friday you advertise your internal positions to your own staff to give them the opportunity to move up.
That's right. So we often have not only opportunities for people to move up, but also people like to get different experience across the different fruit and vegetable categories, because they are quite different and they offer a different skill set.
Thank you. And just generally, I think horticulture is the fastest growing agricultural sector in Australia. So certainly if anyone is interested in agriculture, horticulture is one of the areas that they probably should look closely at. And there's a couple of questions here. How much of your produce is exported, typically?
Fortunately, I don't have those sorts of numbers. Don't have easy access to that information at the moment, sorry.
And okay, Charles has asked what type of qualifications would someone need to move over to China to operate in your growth corridor there?
China at the moment we're looking for essentially farm manager and financial controller. So people who have very strong experience in farm management, but then there's also those that would work on the farm, picking and packing, supervising. So they're probably, the picker-packer are your entry levels, and having that keen desire to learn and grow across, and obviously then you could move into the more supervisory roles.
Thank you. And Inverell's asked, what's the fruit in the picture? Are they tomatoes?
Yes, so they're our truss tomatoes. It's really quite amazing to be in that facility. Like I said, it's 20 hectares, and some of those vines can get up to 20 metres long.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's an amazing picture. So, thank you very much, Fiona. That's a great, it's a very different type of agriculture to what the other presenters have been talking about. It's a bit of a culture shock to go from Consolidated Pastoral, looking at the beef stations, through to tomatoes on this sort of scale. So thank you very much. You've really reinforced the breadth of agriculture.
Well, thank you.
I'm really conscious of the time, and I just want to slip through very quickly some of the pathways we've heard from our various presenters about entry-level jobs, and then some of the other jobs that you might be interested in are degree jobs. And while you can go straight to uni and get your degree, just be aware that there are a lot of pathways in agriculture other than that. So with RuralBiz training, our original aim when we set up was to give farmers on the land the opportunity for training and pathways through to education that they had not previously been able to access easily. That was really our driving force. So we started off offering the diploma and the advanced diploma, and offering it in a format that was online and flexible, so that no one had to leave the farm to actually access our training. We got that underway, and I gave ourselves a tick. We've got that one fairly well tied down now. And then we looked forward to the next step, and we have developed two very strong articulations or integrations into degrees with University of New England and Charles Sturt University. So the University of New England, we in fact are able to offer half of their, just short of half of their Bachelor of Agri-Food Systems through units that are in our diploma and our advanced diploma. So what that means that someone who is doing diploma and advanced diploma with us may in fact at the end of that have half of a uni degree already under their belt. In a different way, but similar outcome, we have an arrangement with Charles Sturt University that units that they study in our diploma and our advanced diploma are recognised by Charles Sturt for credit transfers against specific units in their Bachelor of Agribusiness Management. So if people are more interested in the agribusiness, the financial side of farming, then that's probably the degree for them, whereas the Bachelor of Agri-Food Systems is really more focused on the production side of agriculture. I've also noted here that we actively seek out funding and that we are also vet fee help registered. So at this level, what you can see on this screen, no one has to put their hand in their pockets up front. The vet fee help operates very similarly to the student loans at uni level, so that you can study now and pay back later when your income rises above the threshold level. It's exactly the same sort of approach as the HEX system at uni. So we got that pathway pretty well tied down, and we're happy with that. What we're doing now, our next challenge in this pathways, is to fill that gap in looking back towards school. And so what we're working on this year is for people coming from school or new entrants into agriculture around that Certificate 3 and Certificate 4 level. So we've just started in the last month or so a traineeship program and or project, and what we're trying to do is bring together within our industry the different things that need to happen to make traineeships in general farming work. Now, we've heard of traineeships in the big end of town like Elders or maybe Costa or Hassad might be able to run them, but often for an individual farmer on a farm, taking on a trainee can be a big ask. So what we're doing is bringing together small groups of farmers, so it might be 4 or 5 farmers, and a person who wants training in agriculture, and Skillset, which is a group training organisation, and us are combining together to give someone an opportunity to take up a general agriculture traineeship based on normal family farm production. It's early days yet, but what we're aiming to do is to get some small groups together up in the Armidale area, and we may have another one down here near Dubbo. But if we can get this to work, we will continue next year to try and find other groups of farmers around. But it's another way of doing a traineeship that will allow students to hopefully stay local and do it on local farms. There's a question there I noticed Ningdon High School asked, can you do it through TAFE? This is something that's a RuralBiz training initiative, so at the moment TAFE is not involved in it. What our aim is that you can get on board at any stage. So you might be a new entrant, you might be someone who's got 20 years of farming experience. So a new entrant might come in at the Certificate 3, might be in our traineeship level, but someone with 20 years of experience, we might go and work with them and do a recognition of prior learning. They may come in at the diploma level and then decide to do the advanced diploma and go on to the degree. Interesting enough, almost 1/3 of our students currently have degrees. So we actually get people who are heading back the other way. And so what I like to think of is more like a railway map. So this is the Sydney City Railways map, and you can get on at any point along here and travel anywhere else. It's about knowing the direction you want to go and being able to get the appropriate pathway through to it. So today what we've heard is a number of different types of careers in agriculture, from around that banking and finance, farming, horticulture, livestock cropping, elders with their agricultural services, us with education and training, and we would dearly love to have more people who are interested in teaching agriculture working with us. We're always on the scout for that. And there are many, many other ways that you can go in agriculture that we don't have time for today, or that we haven't even thought of yet, because agriculture is changing so much. I'm passionate about the fact that a degree in agriculture will stand you in good stead anywhere. If it's not a degree, then a Certificate 3 or a diploma in agriculture, but wherever it is, you put your toe in the water and get that first agriculture qualification, and you can build to whatever it is that you want from that. So more information from us. Our contact details are up there, and thank you, Milton. Milton is looking after our traineeships, and he's been answering a question about a traineeship there in the questions box. But any other questions, please throw them in the box there. And I have another very important task to do, and that is to announce the winner of our GoPro Hero 3 camera that we had on offer for any school attending. And I'm really pleased to say that the winner was Inverell School. So we will need to find who to send it to at Inverell School. So maybe you could pop your details in the box or give me a call after we've signed off. Sorry, Ty, I take it you're not from Inverell School. Now that brings us to the close of this. We will put this recording up on our website. I want to thank everyone for attending, and we will also be asking for feedback on it, but I'll send out a link to a very short survey on it. I'm conscious that you're all busy people and that you've got places to go and things to do. Charles, I'll put the presentations, the recording and the PowerPoints of the presentations will go up on our website, and we have an Ag Careers part of our website, and if you look there, it might take us, say, a couple of days to get it up there, but if you keep your eye on ruralbiztraining.com.au, our website there, and look under the Ag Careers tab, you'll find that the links and the information about today will go up there. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry, Lauren, that those time zones get us too sometimes. Okay, thank you all, and I'll sign off now.